So this is the month of Mar Cheshvan. This bitter month that's empty and devoid of Yamim Tovim, and this feeling that we have of having fallen from this most incredible level down into this empty month. And the reframe over here, and the reason why Chazal and the Tzaddikim later understood that we should call it not Mar Cheshvan, but actually Ram Cheshvan, the exalted aspect of Cheshvan, is the understanding that actually the pinnacle of Yiddishkeit is not Tishrei. The pinnacle of Yiddishkeit is not moments of absolute spiritual ecstasy and ne'ilah, dressed in white, angels, disconnected from food, drink, everything this worldly, mamish, heavenly, without shoes, right? Mamish without bodies, just mamish, heavenly. That's not the pinnacle of the human condition. V'haraya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has millions of angels who are constantly in ne'ilah every split minute of every hour of every day. So that's not where it's at, because Hashem doesn't need it, because Hashem has malachim. The malachim have that all the time. Hashem has that all the time from his angels. So the realization is that actually, in a certain sense, Tishrei is something akin to base camp. You know anything a little bit about mountain climbing? Before the Chevra gear up, to go all the way up, K2 or Everest or, any of these other mountains, Kilimanjaro, people are climbing mountains. The first thing is base camp, where you get together for a couple of days and you celebrate good energy. It's warm, it's full of joy and support and positivity and training and optimism and getting hyped and stoked and pumped and all other similar words. And nobody over there would tell you that they came all the way from San Francisco to Nepal to the foot of Everest because they enjoy base camp. You can say in California, you could have, I'm sure, much better parties than you could have in some tent in Nepal. That's not why people came. People came to this place because they're going to climb the mountain. Climbing the mountain doesn't look very pretty. Climbing the mountain is not full of light. It's not full of closeness and love and friendship. And climbing the mountain is difficult and painful and it's cold and it's arduous and it's taxing and it's messy. But that's the good stuff. That's why they came to this place, to climb the mountain. So the past couple of years, I've taken to seeing Tishrei as not the pinnacle of the Jewish experience, but as the beginning of the year where we're about to set out, and Tishrei is base camp. Tishrei is just giving us like a infusion, maybe a transfusion, a blood transfusion, of the essential lifeblood of what it means to be a Jew. Each of the chagim, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and Hoshana Rabbah, and Shmini Atzeres, each one is contributing its own thing. And when we leave that experience, we come into Cheshvan. This is the ikr from that perspective. Now we're climbing the mountain. This is it. This is the good stuff. This is why we came to Olam Hazeh, not for an ne'ilah. We came to an Olam Hazeh for a 3:30 Mincha Mariv at the end of a really difficult, annoying work day, and it's like slush and sleet outside, and it's soaking through your shoes as you're trudging down Golders Green Road, or someplace to get to Haggers, and then you daven a Mincha Mariv, and everybody's all down and sad and hardly looking at each other, and you get home and the house is a mess and the kids are all over the place, that's the pinnacle. That is Ram Cheshvan. That's the mountaintop. Ram means high. To be able to hold on to Hashem in those moments. In those moments, to be able to be connected and stay hopeful and joyous and positive and optimistic, and with Yeshivat Das and with Savlanos, that Rabbi Nachman says that's what Emunah is Savlanos. That's what it means to have Emunah. Savlanos, patience, calm, really calm. Even when everything's falling apart, and even when everything's very dark, so then Gewalt. That's the pinnacle of the human experience. That's what it means to be a Yid. That's being Mamlech Hashem and giving Hashem a Dira Dafka Bitachta in a place that looks to be the lowest, which it turns out, paradoxically, is actually the highest place in existence. So without going into very long things, I just want to share this tiny thing with you, because I think it's very beautiful. I actually just gave a whole shir about this before this. A different group. The pinnacle of the message of base camp that relates to this experience of climbing the mountain, of walking into Cheshvan, is Hoshana Rabbah in a certain sense. Shmini Atzeres is a regal b'fnei atzma, it's a different thing. The culmination of Sukkot, this triadic relationship between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then Sukkot, the pinnacle is Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah is the Yom Da'arava. The Arava, everybody knows, the Medrash tells us, the Arava ein tam, ein reach, it relates to the lowest kind of Jew, vis-a-vis all the other minim that are reflecting higher levels of Yidden. The Arava is mamish, the person who's disconnected in every conceivable, identifiable, apparent way. And the other Medrash tells us that the four minim are connected to different body parts. The Lulav is the spine, the Esrog is the heart, the Hadassim are the eyes, and the Arava is the lips. But it struck me this year, no pun intended, we'll get to Hoshana Rabbah striking the Arava, but anyway. But if you look at the Arava, it's not just any lips. The Arava is closed lips. Have to be closed. You cannot have a kosher Arava if it's split in the middle. The lips are closed, which means that this Yid, who ein tam ein reach, feels that he cannot daven to Hashem. He's too distant. Hashem doesn't want to hear from him. There's no use in calling out. There's no use in praying, davening. And on Hoshana Rabbah, what we're doing is, when we bang and smash the Aravas on the floor, in a certain sense, we're splitting open the lips of the Yid of Ein Tam Ein Reach, of these closed lips. And we're telling the Arava, don't you know that today is David HaMelech's Shpizin? Don't you know that David HaMelech's whole thing is tshuva? Don't you know that David HaMelech said, Ani tefillah, that Karav Hashem l'chol Karav l'chol asher yikru b'emes, that there's nobody who's too distant to call out to Hashem, that Karav Hashem l'nishbrei leiv, that in a certain sense it's specifically those who are the lowly, as Daka v'shvar ruach HaKadosh Baruch Hu rests with the people who are experiencing humanity, who know all the ways in which they aren't angels, and all the ways in which this world is in paradise. And then after we finish this process, we take this Arava and we throw it up on top of the Aron, which is Bechina of B'makam Shebali Tshuva Oimdim. At the end, where the Bali Tshuva go, Ein Sadiq Kimur Mechanim Lamed, the holiest Rabbanim in the shul will sit maybe in the front, level with the tables and chairs. But the Aravas, the Ein Tam Ein Reach, they're the crowning glory. And this is the pasuk Evin Ma'asu Habaynim, that what looks like the stone that was despised by the builders. It becomes the pinnacle. It becomes mamish the cornerstone. And one last element, and then we'll sing, is that this is also related to the pasuk Eishes Chayil Ateres Bala. Now, Ateres Bala, we could understand, is a correlate to the end of the pasuk that we mentioned before of Haisel Rosh Pina, right? So Ateres Bala becomes the crown of her husband. Haisel Rosh Pina moves to the head, moves to the top, is the cornerstone of the building. It's a reference. The Medrash tells us that when they're building the Beis Hamikdash, there was one stone that didn't fit anywhere, and it was misshapen, and it was ugly, and they cast it away, they despised it. Evim Ma'asu Habaynim, and they said there's no use for the stone. And then when they finished building the whole entire Beis Hamikdash, and all the stones were perfectly fit together, they came to one very oddly shaped hole, and they could not find any stone to fit it. And then somebody remembered, you remember that oddly shaped stone that we cast away? That stone was intended to be the crowning glory of the building. And that's the good stuff. That's the Baal Tshuva. That's the pinnacle of the spitz of what Hashem intended in creating human beings, bringing Am Yisrael down into this world. So we can understand that Teres Bala. What's Eishes Chayil? So Chevra, Rabbi Nachman teaches in Torah Yud of Likutei Maran that the word Eishes is a Rashi Tevos. Eishes is a Rashi Tevos For Ado Shem Adni Sifasai Tiftach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, open my lips. The Arava that was prior, closed lips, incapable of davening. That our avodah is to split those lips open to demonstrate the way that tshuva is always possible, that tefillah is always accessible, and that not just is it accessible, you can return, but that the b'makim shebali tshuva oimdim goes to the top of the aron. That the Eben Ma'asu Aboinim is Hoysel Rosh Pina. So Eishes, Adni Sufasai Tiftach, you can open your lips, you can daven, Chayil, you can be full of strength and pride. Eishes Chayil is Ateres Bala, that's the crown. And so isn't it wonderful that the tzaddikim say, based on Azar Kaddish, that the month of Mar Cheshvan, we're actually reading the word wrong. And we're actually intended to read this word, not Mar Cheshvan, but Mirach Shivan. Mirach Shivan, not Mar Cheshvan. And it's an Aramaic word. And it comes from a phrase that says, Mirchushe Mirach Shivan Sifvase, which means lips that are whispering lips. Because in Hebrew, Rachash means like to whisper. Rachash, Lachash, Rachash, Chash, silence. In Aramaic, it's Mirach Shavan Sifase. And the tzaddikim teach this is the month of whispering lips. This is the month of moving into the darkness, into the Even Ma'asu, in the month that has nothing, that is Ein Tam, Ein Reach, into the month of humanity, into the month of darkness and death and descent and potential despair. We've hopefully learned the lesson of Hoshana Rabbah strongly enough that these lips know how to whisper. These lips know how to pray. These lips know the secret of base camp. Like, that's cute, but this is climbing the mountain. That's the month of Cheshvan. Ashrenu.